Hey, so this is episode 5, and I'm actually at home today. Got the day off, so I'm working on Upscribe today. And I just got off a call with Corey from Barometrics. So he's the guy kind of running the marketing show over there, and it was just like massively helpful. And so I wanted to record this, in part just for my own sake, so that I can remember, because I didn't record the call, and I mean, I took notes like a madman, but anyways, wanted to go through, because there's a few concepts I think that are extremely huge that I feel like it's like I should have known. It's like, I feel like the great ideas, you listen to somebody who really knows their stuff. They say something, and you may have heard it 1,000 times, but it just couldn't click. It just wouldn't click for you. So there was a few things in this conversation that really clicked for me that are extremely helpful. So the first thing was, the first thing that he said right out of the gate was, he's like, I'm after working at Barometrics for a while, I'm starting to notice the difference between companies that really have it together and are moving in a good direction with their product, because they are doubling down on a few features. They know their customers really well. They're having conversations with their customers, and so they know which features to work on. And the companies that aren't moving in a good direction, or aren't moving at a good pace, are building he's floundering was the term he used. It was like they're building all these different features, and you can tell they don't really know what people want, because they're trying too many things, and he's describing this, and I'm like, oh shoot, this is totally me. And I've heard the description of these companies so many times, but have never been able to connect the dots and realize that, like, that's exactly what I'm doing. So hopefully you're listening to this podcast, and maybe it's a couple years from now, and Upscribe is in a good place, or I'm working on the next product that's in a really good place, and you're listening back to this and going like hopefully I actually, figured this out, and you're able to listen to this and go like, don't worry, Josh, you made it. Anyways, that was a really important thing for me, and I think it's really going to help me move forward, because there's a couple of different dynamics to that just change the game. And this is why I love SaaS and bootstrapping so much. And it's because generally in the bootstrapping world, doing it right is easier. It's less overwhelming, it's less stressful, and there's less guessing. That feels counterintuitive. Like, you feel like it should be hard, and you feel like it should be stressful, and you feel like it should be overwhelming. And if it's not, then you're doing something wrong. But what he's describing is, like, if you're talking to your customers, so he recommended at least 10 people should be getting on calls with when you're doing getting a round of feedback. And just asking them questions about what they're doing. Like, you're trying to help them. You're trying to figure out what their issues are, and how you can provide value to them. If you know this well enough, then you can work on a couple of features that are very helpful. It's easy to work on just a couple of features. What I've done with Upscribe is I've tried to integrate with all these different tools and add all these different features that I'm guessing people will like, because in some cases, and I think this is a trap that we all fall into, it's like, oh, this company has built this feature, so like I built pop-ups for Upscribe because there's a company called Wise Pops that just got to $1 million in ARR, and I was like, man, like, that's awesome. If they can do it, maybe I can add pop-ups and it's going to explode. When in reality, like, there's so many issues with that. Like, and the most important one is that my customers are bloggers, and Wise Pop's customers are in e-commerce. And so in this case, I just added a feature because I saw somebody doing it really well, doing really well with it. And I didn't stop to think like, do my existing customers and the customers that are coming in through my existing marketing channels need pop-ups? And they don't. I've got very few customers that use it. And I think the ones that do are just kind of like, hey, this is something I can use. But it doesn't mean that it's so valuable to them that they wouldn't leave Upscribe if I dropped pop-ups. So, so it's just like, that actually gives me like rest. It's like, okay, I need to sit down and talk to customers and then simplify, get rid of all of the features in Upscribe that my customers don't need, because then I don't have to maintain them, and they're not providing value anyways. So that's what I love about bootstrapping. In venture capital, it's like you need to make billions, so it needs to work for as many people as possible. So you need to figure out how to cover this wide array of use cases and features, and you have to be bringing in tons of people, or tons of revenue. And I'm sure that in some cases, like enterprise and stuff, you're able to niche down with capital, or like even if if you are taking venture capital. But in the case of like the type of product that I'm trying to run, and the majority of like B2B as well, I feel like it's easier to think about the fact that like it doesn't need to be for everyone. It needs to be for a specific group of people, and that specific group has like a list of things that they really need. So I'm not actually going to go into the other pieces in this call. I'll just one more actually, because it's quick, hopefully. The other thing that he was talking about was that we talked about was pricing. So the pricing that I have on Upscribe right now, because it's just an embeddable form tool. Like they're just embeddable forms. It's like, and the customers are bloggers. They're not making money on their blog, and so they don't want to spend a lot of money. And so the lowest tier at $9 a month is still, people are still canceling and saying it's too expensive. And I've spent a lot of time on this tool. It's like it's a full-on form builder, like application that in any other any other industry, it's like this is like a heavy duty form builder. But to them, it's just like it's just too expensive because they just don't have the money to spend, or the money to justify spending, because they're writing for as a hobby, or eventually they want to do it as a career, but right now they're not. And so what we talked about was how annual pricing becomes a much better option, for a much more of a win-win for those type of customers, because it's one payment and they don't have to think about it for the rest of the year. And for me, it's one payment and they're going to use the product for the rest of the year, because they paid for it. And even if they leave at the end of the year, it's still money that I wouldn't have made, because they weren't going to make it that far, maybe. And so it really works well for both of us. And I've never looked at annual that way. And I also, to be honest, was starting to feel like, how can you ever have a product or sell a product with this low of pricing? And so we talked about a few things that I can do with Upscribe to make the annual pricing make more sense for bloggers. So we'll see what changes. But I think something I know for sure in the next few weeks, I'm going to be removing cutting a lot of the fat out of the product, and removing a lot of features that I'm having to maintain because I thought it was a great idea, but nobody's using. So this has been, that was super valuable for me. Hopefully I didn't just sound like a crazy person on like drugs or something, because I'm clearly on a little bit of a high, but I definitely I didn't take drugs, just had a great conversation. Man, I wish I had the time to edit this part out. Anyways, that was that. Have a good one. Talk to you next time.